Madhabi Puri Buch, the former chief of SEBI, was earlier targeted by the opposition for allegedly being soft on industrialist Gautam Adani. Now she finds herself in the eye of another storm. A special court designated under the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, asked the Prevention of Corruption Authorities, the ACB, the Anti Corruption Bureau in Maharashtra, to file an FIR against her. This on a complaint of regulatory violations. Although Ms. Buch has got relief from the Bombay High Court, her tenure continues to be mired in controversy. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Amid concerns over the volatility of the Sensex, there is now a new controversy surrounding the former SEBI chief, Ms. Madhabi Puri Buch. Earlier, she has been targeted by the political opposition on charges of being far too soft on industrialist Gautam Adani, charges that she denied. Now she finds herself caught in the eye of a fresh storm. A special court in Maharashtra asked the Anti-Corruption Bureau to file an FIR against her and other officials of SEBI in relation to an applicant's complaint that a farzi firm, basically a firm that violated norms, was allowed to list on the exchange. SEBI has responded by saying that the applicant, the complainant in question, is known for frivolous complaints. Bombay High Court has provided interim relief. SEBI has made the argument that it was not even given a right to defense, and that the particular company that has been cited harks back to 1994 when Madhabi Puri Buch was not in her position or in a position of authority at SEBI. But Madhabi Puri Buch's tenure continues to be mired in controversy. She seems to have completed her term, ignoring the demands that came from several quarters for her to step down. What is this latest controversy about, and how do we look back at her term in office? Let me introduce a very distinguished panel today as we look at the latest allegations surrounding the former SEBI chief. Joining me now is venture capitalist, industrialist Mohandas. Good to see you, Mohan, after a long time. Sanjay Hegde is with us, senior advocate. Good to see you, Sanjay. Also joining us is Subhash Garg. Mr. Garg has been the Finance Secretary of India. He's the author of two books, and it's great to have him with us. And also joining us is columnist and political analyst Sandip Ghose. Always a pleasure, Sandip. Welcome everybody to the program. Subhash Garg, I'll start with you. In this particular instance, SEBI has argued that the charges are frivolous and they pertain to a time when Madhabi Puri Buch was not even holding any office in the exchange. But I remember that you have more than once thought that given the allegations against her, she should have resigned as SEBI chief. She didn't do that. She managed to complete her term. We have a new SEBI chief. What do you make of these new charges? Because after all, this FIR was urged by a special court under the PMLA. And the Bombay High Court has offered interim relief, but this is not a arbitrary decision. It's a court decision. What do you make of the latest controversy, Mr. Garg?
So, Barkha, this is amusing in a way. The FIR or the application before the CBI court, which directed it to be registered as an FIR, is not really a very serious one. If you look at the contents of it, the contents hardly any. This relates to some listing in 90s, which, of course, even Madhabi Buch's many predecessors were not there. What exactly is the allegation? What happened after or during her tenure? Nothing is available, and the court directed an FIR to be registered. So I don't think this is a serious thing. What makes me a little amused as well as a little sad is that a lot of allegations against basically the Adani group and her own personal conduct, which was at issue, and the SEBI was supposed to investigate and take action. The SEBI did nothing. And when this frivolous type of complaint has been directed to be registered, they have been absolutely prompt in going to the court, getting that stay. Now, this kind of conduct from SEBI of not acting where you are supposed to act and acting very fast when somebody is making even a false allegation, unlike the serious allegations which were made to SEBI, I think this is an unfair way to deal with the public policy issue.
So, Mr. Garg, what you're saying is that given that the earlier allegations which surrounded not just her own conduct, but also how she had acted or not acted against complaints around the Adani group, you're saying that those were serious. SEBI looked the other way from them. This time, SEBI has been very prompt. And according to you, therefore, while this is a frivolous complaint, SEBI comes across badly. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, see, I don't know why any court, including the Supreme Court, did not press registering case against her for not doing the investigation and for indulging in a lot of personal misconduct. So the system does not order registration of corruption cases in such cases of misconduct, but orders registration of a case which is not that serious. So I think what your summary is fair, but the point which I need to make is this.
So the system doesn't come across well because the system failed to act when the charges were serious and was very prompt in acting when the charges were frivolous.
Exactly. In fact, it provides a kind of escape route because it is easy to see that the court would have granted a stay on this. I read this 12-page order of the special court. It recites the law. It doesn't even bring out that what made the court to think that a case is prima facie made out. The facts and nothing also those sorts have been. In fact, if you you may even sometimes think that this case might be a propped up case all artificially to give something of a escape route. I don't want to be cynical, but this makes me sad that serious cases go completely unheard and the non-serious cases get this kind of treatment.
So, what do we make of this, Mohandas Pai? Would you agree with that? I mean, I know that through the allegations, the more grave allegations, as Subhash Garg called them, you defended Ms. Buch. You did not think that she needed to resign. Mr. Garg felt differently. But both of you would probably be agreed that this is a weak case. You know, when I was going through it, I couldn't make head or tail of it because it pertains to a company that was listed in 1994. SEBI has responded saying the company was unlisted and not allowed to trade since 2017. Yet the questions, the larger questions are the ones that Mr. Garg is raising. And those are, why this case, why now? When SEBI was not, what do you make of it?
Barkha, cases are very different and there are different jurisdictions, right? Now, this is a small court. I don't know how the judge can direct somebody to file an FIR against a regulator without hearing the regulator. There is no urgency. The skies are not going to fall down. I don't know on one basis they could go and say file an FIR, which is very, very serious, against a regulatory agency. The least the court could have done is to ask the regulatory agency to come and present their point of view, then decide the consequences. It did it suo moto. I think that's very, very wrong. And it overreached its own jurisdiction. And the Bombay High Court has said don't give effect to the FIR because there seems to be nothing of substance in the FIR. I think that's very important for people to know. Second, the courts are very different. The same court will give one decision one day, next decision another day. We've seen in the bail cases, some people get bail, some don't get bail, some get bail immediately. If a particular lawyer comes before the court, some don't get bail at all, case is not heard. There's inconsistency within a court and across all the courts. So what one court does not necessarily mean the other court will do the same thing. And now, as far as the Adani case is concerned, I think the Supreme Court had heard it. The Supreme Court feels it's not serious. I think we should accept the Supreme Court decision because there are not much evidence given about Adani, and we'll all know what happened to that particular vulture fund, vulture entity which tried to do this and fling mud on the regulator. So I think we got to be very circumspect when we speak about regulators and not tar and feather them just because somebody makes some allegations. Yes, when somebody makes allegation, they have to be investigated. That is totally true because we have to make sure the credibility of any institution is not impaired. But I think this case is totally frivolous. And I know it's very surprising and shocking that court could order make such an order.
Sanjay, let me bring you in. Does this reflect on the court? Does it reflect on the overall system? How do you see it? Because I think Subhash Garg's point, look, everybody, no matter what you think of SEBI, Ms. Buch, Adani, Hindenburg, you look at this case, this is a non-serious case. And I think I'm with Mr. Garg on this question that why did the special court and the PMLA feel the need to intervene in this case, but not on charges that certainly raised more questions of conflict of interest, more grave allegations at the very least, no matter which side of the debate you were on? What do you make of it, Sanjay Hegde?
Well, let me tell you, do you know what charges Al Capone was finally sent to jail on? Al Capone was a gangster, prohibition, this, that, and the other. He was sent to jail finally on charges of not paying his income tax as a second-hand furniture.
Correct.
So the thing is that sometimes the system may let a whole camel pass, but you may strain at a gnat. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All those other big cases which Mr. Garg and Mohandas spoke about, the system has said no, okay, we will not interfere, etc., etc. Now, this is a case which somebody goes and files in a court of first instance and says, look, this discloses a cognizable offense. The court, after going through the complaint and whatever other testimony that is provided, then says, look, it appears that there is a cognizable offense. So therefore, I will direct the police to investigate. The starting point of an investigation by any police is the filing of an FIR. Nothing else has happened. Just the process of criminal law has been set in motion. Before filing of an FIR, there is no right of an accused to be heard. That's also the law. So this is the court of first instance which has said, look, you've brought a complaint. Prima facie, I think that there is something in it. It may disclose a cognizable offense. Let's have it investigated. That's all that has happened. So let's not rush to judgment saying X is guilty. But
here's the question. Here's the question. The system that you said will allow a camel to pass with strain at a gnat, that Al Capone went in for tax violations and not for graver allegations. The point is they still have to find a legitimate tax violation. You still have to find a legitimate case. But the more interesting thing about what you're implying is that the system that was, some might say, the opposition says that protecting her is no longer protecting her. Is that your interpretation?
I really don't know. And Mr. Garg had a conspiracy theory, which could also equally be true. Very often, cases are filed just so that you are inoculated against future litigation. I've seen it happen in public interest litigation, for instance. Anytime something hits the newspapers, a half-baked petition is filed. That is dismissed by the courts, and after that, then the courts say, no, we've dismissed it earlier. Why are you coming back with the same issue, even if a better petition comes along? So I would not rush to judgment on this. Or suffice it to say that today, a particular court has found cause to proceed or to direct an investigation, and a court higher than that has said, just stay your hands.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. But Sandip, I think everybody here knows that there is a larger system. There isn't just SEBI. There isn't just the special court. There is intent, and there is, sometimes things slip through the cracks. And maybe there was an overeager judge, and the Bombay High Court feels that the judge was overeager, and everything will, drag on in the Bombay High Court, and this story will fall off the headlines. Or there is something more to the timing of this than meets the eye. You have a new SEBI chief. You have this, a lady who has been, for all her accomplishments, been mired in one controversy after the other. The system could either be providing her a safe route, as Mr. Garg suggests, or it could be abandoning her, as some others suggest. Or it could be none of the above. What do you think it is?
See, first of all, Barkha, I will not conflate the two issues about whatever quote unquote she may have or may not have been guilty about in the earlier instances of Adani, etc., and between this one, this particular thing. I think we should treat this as first of all, from what Sanjay is saying, I will add, I, as a professional, feel very, very reassured that something like this has been done if SEBI has acted quickly, because something professionals like us really worry about when we vacate a seat, vacate a job, whether your former employers will stand by you if there are any such legal things come. And we find that even in government, there are Mr. Garg's colleagues like our former coal secretary, etc., who were kind of jettisoned by the system. And since he didn't have the wherewithal or even the influence to get some pro bono big names to go and fight for him, he had to bear the can. So this happens all the time. So the fact that SEBI has actually acted on it, I think is reassuring for professionals. I had a separate crib about how the government has gone back from taking lateral entries. Now they've gone back to the bureaucracy. And I think Mr. Garg himself in an article has commented about it. If I'm not mistaken, he wrote a piece in the Quint.
Yeah.
So all of that is there. But I am really amazed at the viciousness or venom by which people react on these things. First of all, leading newspapers, leading portals today morning reported this without any reference to the fact that this is a 1994 case. And if at all she has been, kind of ex officio or a continuation, she has been done. They carried headlines. People like, leading, when I'm talking about, I've even tweeted, so I have no hesitation in naming them. Economic Times, Live Mint, everyone else carried the headline as if this is something to do with what she has done in her tenure, and then jumps on all your, what is nowadays a common term, IT coolies, saying that our leader was always right. They always said she is a fraud, and here now the court has indicted. And a whole series of such tweets, people again congratulating their party communications head, saying that he is the person who should get credit because he is the one who exposed. Where are we? In a couple of hours' time, you had the High Court turning it down on very valid reasons. And now only it's beginning to surface as a 1994, some kind of a technical thing. And we are even having this show. I would dare submit, Barkha, when you decided to have this show, you probably were not aware of the 1994.
No, that's true. That's true. Because I had the same access to the media reports, and it's only when I read the judgment. And that's when you heard me, that when I read the thing, I thought it was a complete nonsense of a case. But then the journalist in me wonders, like Subhash Garg, why? So I am not focusing so much on this allegation. I am curious about why the Miss Buch, who was able to withstand a much bigger storm, suddenly faces this FIR. That's a legitimate question.
So now that going back, if we really want to go back into that, I think that's where we have to again, Barkha, there are two ways. One has to see, I would tend to argue on behalf of the government that the government had really stepped in to support her. Some of us, in fact, thought the government was very unfairly not defending or protecting her. People, even the Ministry of Finance and everybody were allowing her to fight her own battle to the extent that she and her husband had to issue press statements to defend themselves, and all that they allowed to do, because it was a double-edged sword that they allowed her to complete the term, because if she would have stepped down earlier, it would have been in some form acceptance of thing, and they've allowed her to come here, and they didn't give her the extension, which, as people said, normal course, another person would have got the extension. To that extent, she was really made to.
So you feel she was not protected by the system? She was treated unfairly. Subhash Garg believes
unfairly,
otherwise.
But a system, because she was, to my mind, a collateral damage. People were trying to get at Modi through via Adani, and she became a collateral damage.
Let me get Mohandas to come in there. I think Sandip's point is well taken, that the initial media reporting of this case, I agree with Sandip. In the morning when we woke up and we saw all the headlines, we were like, it was not clear that it was a case related to 1994. It was not clear that this company had actually been stopped from trading since 2017. So we have all those details now, but there is still a question. Why now? Now, depending on your point of view, you either have the Subhash Garg point of view, that the allegations were serious earlier, Ms. Buch should have resigned earlier, or you have the Sandip Ghose point of view, which is that the system actually didn't protect her enough. She was left to defend herself. Became collateral damage. What do you say, Mohan?
I think she became collateral damage. That's very clear. Please remember, George Soros had made a point when Hindenburg came with the report to say Modi will now have to go before Parliament to answer the Indian Parliament. It is a contrived transaction against Adani. There was not much proof at all. They gathered all kind of stuff, put it together, and our media lapped it up for whatever reason. There was no evidence if you read the whole thing, because they're all matters which have been settled over a long period of time. And please remember, Barkha, over the same period of time, global financial institutions gave them $10 billion of loan. Now, they're not stupid organization. Nobody gives $10 billion when they look at all this stuff. They know it is frivolous. It's a George Soros contrived thing. It's been public about that. It's public evidence is there. So the whole thing has been cooked up. And we know how it has been cooked up. We know the case about Adani in the US also without much proof, because nobody has traced the money. Nobody knows whether any bribe was paid. Some silly allegation. And nobody pays 10% of the contract value as bribe today for money to be received over 20 years. The net present value is so enormously high. There is no profit. So I think the whole thing is cooked up. And I don't think we should go and sit there, throw her under the bus. Because, see, let me tell you, I've known Madhabi for well over 30 years. She's a person of impeccable integrity. Now, Barkha, if somebody makes vague allegations against you, I will stand by you. Because, people of impeccable integrity are there. We know them. And if you read all the allegations, very frivolous. Somebody invested somewhere, somebody did something, somebody said something, so you do something which is of no consequence at all. So you got conflicts of interest. There's nothing of conflict of interest which ever shown that she ever did. So she was collateral damage very correctly. They wanted to hit Adani and then Modi. And in doing so, wanted to hit Madhabi and SEBI and say that SEBI is protecting. They knew that people in India will take it up. The media will write about it, make it a very big issue, as if there is some great degree of nepotism, etc. So I totally agree with Sandip.
So let me get Subhash Garg at this point. Subhash, Mr. Garg, I know your views are different, because you have said more than once that you thought she should have resigned. But you've also been a high-ranking bureaucrat, and you understand the system enough to know that nothing is innocuous in the system. Nothing is a coincidence. And while this case is frivolous, its timing is very peculiar, because this is not a this is not a judge in any other court. This is a special court designated under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Right? This is a PMLA court. Therefore, what occurs to you at this point? What are the right questions to ask at this point?
See, when I was approached by people in the morning, I said, this is frivolous. Why are you doing a show? But still, if you want to go ahead with it, you do it. Fair enough. Right. So it was very apparent even in the morning. But let me tell you why. You see, Madhabi Buch was a full-time director when I was the Economic Affairs Secretary. She worked very closely with me. She is a high-rated professional, very competent, no doubt about it, and knows the market, knows the financial system very well. And I think it was an outstanding choice to make her the SEBI chief. There is no doubt about it. I also don't believe that she is corrupt. So I don't find any evidence in whatever has happened so far where I can say that she might have indulged in corruption, right? But what I know for reasonable certainty is that she did misconduct. There is a clear definition of misconduct in the rules of appointment. I would never accept any arguments, because I have studied the case very closely, of her continuing to own two firms, consulting firms, and that consulting firms continue to do business, receive payments, and owned 99% and 100% by her. Even if you have disclosed it, and that those disclosures never came out in the open, that what did she disclose about this? And the transactions continued for 3 to 4 or 5 years when she was remained in the whole time business. That is a misconduct, plain and simple misconduct. And the responsibility of taking action in cases of such misconduct is that of the government, because the government is the appointing authority. Government is the disciplinary authority, and government did not act on this at all. This is not sort of leaving her out in the cold to defend herself. This is actually providing the perfect kavach of protection. So I don't think she was badly treated by the government. She was provided whatever could have been done by the government to ride out her tenure. Of course, she became a liability. And that is why she has not been given another extension and she has been allowed to go. Now, to respond to your question, why this might have been done or something, the question which came to my mind in the morning is that why no one, including this particular gentleman, approached the same court for the misconduct and other cases of allegations against her.
Yeah.
For all this while. And why come up with something which he's apparently a professional RTI activist who has done several cases in the past as well. And suddenly he goes there and files a case when she is about to demit office, and the court provides an order to launch the FIR without sort of analyzing the evidence or the allegations at all. There's nothing.
So reading between the lines, what you're saying is this complaint is frivolous, but in all the other allegations, the GOI provided her a kavach of protection. Then she became a liability. So she has either been dumped by the government that is no longer wanting to protect her, or been given a camouflage of a safe route. Mr. Garg?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what it is.
Sandip, I want you to come in on that. Very interesting from Subhash Garg.
So, I think, first of all, Barkha, I think that's too much of a conspiracy theory. Everybody, Mohan, Mr. Garg, everybody, acknowledged that there is no question of lack of integrity in terms of Madhabi. This particular one, I would not join issue with Mr. Garg about that firm. Whether that was whether you call it a misconduct or a technical lapse, etc. But again, there is no proof to show that whatever income came in for Dhaval's consulting he has done for a couple of firms, has been there any quid pro quo involved there for what she did. It could be a technical fault, and like Sanjay says, sometimes technical faults trip a person. Not paying, you get charged for a parking ticket, but whereas you have a bigger theft, you don't get caught. That could be another matter. But when you say, Barkha, all the other things, it is what are all the other things apart from this technical flaw? All the other things is this whole allegation that she has sided with Adani and given the not investigated. And
I mean, there were two sets of allegations. One was the lack of disclosure and therefore possible conflict of interest, and then there was did she go soft on Adani? I'm broadly clubbing it. These were the two sets of allegations.
Soft on Adani is now. I think what we should judge, and I've read through because of this several pieces on Madhabi, which has been written since even before she retired or when it was clear. Her tenure, I think there is a lot she can take credit for. Everybody's tenure in whichever profession, there are hits and misses during that, but you have to judge the person from where that person had taken on a particular role, be it of a prime minister or be it of any other organization or a secretary in the government, where you have taken off and where you have left. The stuff Madhabi has done in terms of the SEBI, especially for protection of smaller investors, everything is phenomenal. And I think, to quote Mr. Manmohan Singh's thing, history will judge her much more favorably on those scores than anything else. I think that's undeniable. Now, there are certain misses. Now, but there is so much of bias, Barkha. And, another portal I was seeing, they have carried a headline that SEBI officials happy that she is quitting. She has not got an extension there. They didn't give her a farewell. How mean can you get? And the portal was given because that particular portal's owners were pulled up by her. they were, that particular news outlet, they were pulled up. So they are carrying a vicarious thing to say she wasn't given a farewell by the staff. And
Yeah,
as if
no. I think sure. I think let me get Sanjay to respond to that. Sanjay, Hegde, the story has moved from this case that we all agree is a frivolous case to what do we make of the fact that either she's been abandoned now that she's outlived her term and her utility, or she's being provided cover in a smarter way. Mohan and Sandip tend to think these are conspiracy theories. This is a continued targeting of Madhabi, and the court will in the end stand on her side. What do you say?
No, as Keynes famously said, in the long run, we are all dead. So the question is, where does the legal process go from here?
Yeah.
The legal process has started, it would have commenced, and maybe an investigation would have cleared her. But even before the investigation commenced, it has been stated by the High Court that was there basis to even order an investigation. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether the Bombay High Court will be in a hurry, or whether Ms. Buch's lawyers will be in a hurry to get the case decided, because once you have a stay, there is no incentive to go to a final denouement and say, look, I have passed an Agni Pariksha or two. There has never been any anxiety for an Agni Pariksha by any public official in this country for a long time, and we lawyers have contributed a great deal to seeing that the process of law and the wheels of justice grind ever so slowly, even if they ultimately grind fine.
Yeah.
The question, the doubt still in my mind is that, when there is a sword of investigation, possible investigation hanging over, then there is even greater impetus on the person concerned to just keep mum. We have often had many people post-retirement writing books, telling stories, telling this one. But anybody who goes to a competent lawyer is first told, you have a constitutional right of silence, so please exercise it. And you will say nothing. You will not say yes to anything, except if somebody asks you, do you have a good lawyer? Then you say yes, yes, yes.
I'm only smiling because Mr. Garg has written 2 books. And I'm wondering what made him take that leap. Certainly the first one, I haven't read the second one, outed many stories about explosive meetings with the then RBI governor. You remember those, Subhash Garg. I do have to close. Quick last word, Subhash Garg. Where do you see this case going from here?
This case, I think, will die its natural death. Whether the High Court permits, legally, High Court probably will not be in a position to dismiss it, because there are no facts, there are no merit-based discussions. But it will probably order the court to have a second look and evidence. If there is enough evidence, you order the registration of FIR or don't do it. I think that's the way it will go. So it's not a very serious one. I think what we need to still that debate about Madhabi's tenure, both in terms of the personal integrity, misconduct, this is one, and did she do a professional job in investigating allegations against Adani. I think those two will linger for many, many years.
All right, more questions than answers, more disagreements than consensus. The only consensus in this conversation, the bottom line, this particular case is frivolous. For the rest, the jury is out. History will judge her one or the other way. We leave it there. Sandip, Mohandas, Pai, Subhash, Garg, Sanjay, Hegde. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo's Story and support independent, robust journalism.